I see you standing there with that unmistakable fire in your eyes. People look at you and think, here's someone who has it all together, someone who's strong, healthy, dependable, always ready to take on the world. They see your confidence, your poise, your achievements. They see the smile that lights up your face, the determination in your stride. If they were asked to describe you, they'd say you're the strong one, the one who lifts everybody else up, the one who seems unbreakable. And you carry that persona like a champion day after day, because you know that's what everyone expects. You're the rock for others to lean on, the brilliant star that guides people through their own darkness. But I want to talk to you about the secret you keep locked away in the quiet corners of your soul. That secret that even if your loved ones sense something is off, they can't quite put their finger on. I'm talking about the secret loneliness that's carved itself into your bones, the isolation you've felt since you were a child, the solitude that haunts you even in a crowded room. I know your secret. God knows it. And it's time we shine a little light on it because, let's be real here, you've felt alone for as long as you can remember, even when you were a kid looking around the playground, noticing how the other children laughed, how they formed little groups, how they seemed so carefree. You put on a brave face, tried your best to blend in, to be like everybody else. But inside, you couldn't shake the feeling that you were different, that your mind worked in ways you couldn't explain, that your heart carried weights you couldn't name. Sometimes it got so heavy you'd wander off by yourself just to let yourself breathe. But then you'd feel the sting of being alone all over again, stuck in a loop of wanting to connect and yet not quite knowing how. You thought, maybe I just need to toughen up, push through it, and do what everyone else does. And you did. You survived those childhood years, shoulders braced against a world that didn't seem to understand you at all. Fast forward to adulthood, and guess what? That loneliness is still there. Sure, you've grown stronger, wiser, more capable, and you've collected a list of successes and accolades that people point to saying, look at them, they've got it made. Maybe you've got the degree, the career, the relationships that everyone else admires, but none of that changes the fact that, deep down, you feel disconnected, as if you're on an island watching the rest of the world from behind a thick pane of glass. They see you smiling, joking, conquering challenges at work, being the backbone of your family or your friendships, and they assume this person is always good. They're always on top of the game. But you know the truth. Late at night, when you finally lay your head down, the silence rushes in, and that's when the questions start. That's when the whispers in your mind grow louder, and you realize that nobody, not even those closest to you, fully sees or understands the battle you face inside. It's a battle of isolation that has dogged your footsteps for years, a private war that you figure you just have to keep fighting on your own. Let me tell you something. Being chosen doesn't mean you're condemned to loneliness. It doesn't mean you have to hustle through life without a soft place to land. Being chosen means you have a destiny, yes, but it also means you have the capacity to connect, to inspire, to find real companionship. Look at the greatest champions in history. Look at the icons we admire. Almost all of them had someone in their corner, someone who recognized the quiet struggles behind the public victories. You deserve that too. You deserve to be seen and heard in all your complexity. But I know what you're going to say. If I show my vulnerability, if I admit I feel alone, people might think I'm weak, that I'm not who they believed I was. Maybe you're afraid that if you crack open that door, the entire facade will crumble and you'll lose the respect you've earned. Maybe you're even worried you'll lose your job or certain relationships because you've always been the go-to person, the rock, the shining example of strength. Let me tell you, that fear is natural. It's downright human. But it's also a chain around your heart, keeping you from discovering a freedom that's out there waiting for you. Because the truth is, vulnerability is not weakness. It's raw, unfiltered humanity. See, there's a paradox to loneliness. The more alone you feel, the more you tend to isolate. You build walls not because you dislike people, but because you're trying to shield yourself from more disappointment, more hurt. You think, nobody can reach me here, and that's safer. But in reality, those walls become your prison, and day by day they separate you from the empathy and support that might actually heal your wounded heart. Isn't it time to loosen a brick or two, to let a little light in? Here's another piece to that puzzle. God knows your loneliness, your isolation. You're not fooling the Almighty with your carefully practiced grin and your hustle to prove you're okay. You might step into your place of worship or hit your knees in prayer, thinking you need to present yourself as the perfect believer, the unstoppable chosen one. But let me remind you, God sees the truth and He loves you entirely, with no reservations. He knows you've been feeling alone since you were a kid, and He has never abandoned you in those moments of dark introspection. The question is, do you believe that love extends far enough to cover your pain, your confusion, your fear that you'll never truly fit in anywhere? I get that you might not be used to letting people in. You've probably had experiences that taught you trust is risky business. Maybe you confided in someone once, and they brushed you off or minimized your feelings, leaving you feeling even more isolated than before. That sort of thing can brand your soul, make you think, why bother? But the right people are out there, people with hearts big enough to hold space for your fears and your tears, even as they respect the powerful warrior you are. Because guess what? You can be both at once. You can be the fighter, the champion, the unstoppable force, and you can also be the lonely child who just wants a comforting voice in the dark. The world might try to tell you that's impossible, that you have to pick one or the other. But that's a lie. You contain multitudes, and God designed you to experience a full range of emotions, from triumphant victory to quiet vulnerability. Listen close. Being set apart doesn't mean you're meant to be perpetually alone. Sometimes God sets us apart for a season of growth, for personal reflection, to refine us. But He doesn't want us to languish in solitary confinement forever. There is a difference between solitude for the sake of spiritual depth and loneliness that erodes the spirit. One can nurture the soul, the other can leave it gasping for air. Perhaps you've mistaken one for the other, thinking your isolation was just part of your higher calling. But if the isolation is robbing you of joy, if it's making you feel like nobody in this world understands you, then that's not healthy solitude. That's a burden you're not meant to carry alone. More people than you think are walking around with entire epics sealed behind their eyes, waiting for someone to truly see them. Maybe if we all mustered a bit more courage to open up, we'd find out we're more alike than different, and that misunderstanding would evaporate. God knows exactly who you are, though. Every chapter of your story. He's read it front to back. The question is, will you let Him into that locked room in your heart? Because sometimes we put on a spiritual front, praising God with our lips but keeping the door bolted when it comes to our real agony. We act like He can't handle it, or worse, that He doesn't care. That's not faith, that's fear, and you're stronger than that. Open that door, pour it all out, and watch how your connection with the divine deepens in ways you never expected. Let's get practical for a moment. How do you start shifting out of this lonely place? Remember this, even the mightiest warriors felt isolation at times. Even the greatest prophets, the greatest leaders, the greatest heroes had moments where they questioned if anyone truly got them. It's part of being human, of having a vision or a spirit that is bigger and deeper than average. But the difference is, those who rose to their full potential eventually let others in. They found teammates, friends, mentors, and they found a closeness with the divine that transcended every wound of the past. That's what's waiting for you if you're willing to reach for it. I'm not saying the road ahead is a cakewalk. You'll still have nights when the loneliness creeps in, when you wonder if you'll ever fully escape it. But it won't own you anymore. It won't define you, because you'll know you have options, you have allies, you have a relationship with a God who sees and loves every single inch of your soul. And that knowledge, my friend, that faith becomes your shield in those dark hours. You'll stand, not because you're faking it, but because you've accepted that solitude doesn't have to last forever. You have decided to let the world see the real you, to let yourself be known by those who matter. So take this as your wake-up call, your rallying cry, your permission slip to break free from the isolation that's plagued you since childhood. You're not condemned to that lonely path forever. You're a victor, not a victim. You're a force to be reckoned with, and the world needs your authenticity. You said, it needs your story, your tears, your laughter, your grit, and your grace. It needs the fullness of who you are, because someone out there is going through the exact same struggle, waiting for another soul to say, hey, I've been there. I understand. Because true strength, real unyielding power, is forged in the fires of vulnerability and truth. That's what makes you unstoppable, not the stoic mask, but the fearless heart beneath it. As you finish reading these words, take a moment to breathe deeply. Let go of the notion that you must constantly stand tall without ever bending. It's okay to lean, to rest, to trust. You've come this far not by being perfect, but by being determined, compassionate, and open to growth. And there is so much more waiting for you in the journey ahead. Embrace your strength and your struggles, and walk forward in the assurance that you are neither alone nor incapable. You are, in fact, more capable than you know. Trust that, believe it, and live it out, one step at a time. Amen and amen.